All right, everybody, we are live. Kevin Durant just traded. The Athletic NBA Daily Emergency Podcast. I thought this was over, guys. I'm Dave Dufour here with Espera Henny and Zena Keita on the morning of NBA Finals Game 7. And of course, guys, we are here talking about Kevin Durant. As usual, heading into the summer, Kevin Durant gets moved from Phoenix to the Rockets for the number 10 overall pick in the upcoming draft. Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, 5 second-round picks. Guys, who won the trade? I think this is easy.
Houston.
The,
Like, let's
Houston.
just be
yeah,
real. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's so obvious. Number one, you get an immediate score in Kevin Durant, 27, 28 per night. You bet on that. And then you didn't give up your future. Right?
Yep.
Like you
Yeah.
have Alperin, you have Amen, and then you have a veteran point guard still with Fred VanVleet that can play with a player like Kevin Durant. But the biggest one that we always forget somehow, Jabari Smith Jr. wasn't in that
Right.
trade. That is so exciting
Yep.
for Houston. You've got this size, you didn't mortgage your future, and for the next 2-3 years, like Houston, depending on how long KD wants to play, Houston
Right.
is looking scary. Like this is awesome for them.
Yeah, I love the fact that they still kept their flexibility. The fact that they still have young guys, they can give more opportunity to Reed Shepard and Cam Whitmore if they want to. They can make trades still
Yes.
this offseason to add to this group. The fact that they still have their young guys and Jabari Smith Jr. Also, the fact that they still didn't give up any of the Suns' future picks other than this 10th pick that they're giving back to them. So they still control the Suns' destiny in a little bit of a way. And they maintain their flexibility to go out and make trades, to maybe make a signing here or there. And honestly, they got off of Jalen Green's contract. I know that's kind of
Yes.
harsh to say, but ultimately, Jalen Green signed on for an extension for this year. The Rockets had a really impressive season. And in the brightest moments, Jalen Green kind of fell short. And so they got off of a contract, got a major upgrade in Kevin Durant. And we've talked about it ad nauseum, but like the clutch scoring issue for KD and the Rockets, right? It was a huge issue for Houston to score in the clutch and in fourth quarters. They now add a guy who instantly gives them that in KD.
Yeah. Theoretically, he should play well with Şengün. Spaces the floor, can slide up and play the 4 in some of those smaller lineups that they like to do with Jabari Smith at the 5, actually. Like, it's kind of interesting. You can play him with Steven Adams. I mean, he's a guy that plugs into every single lineup they like to run. Their defense doesn't take a huge drop off, in my opinion, because KD can actually elevate you there too with a little bit more rim protection, which they can always use. So I think this is a pretty good move for the Rockets because you didn't have to give up very much. I mean, I think if you get into a world in which you're giving up Reed Shepard, Jabari Smith, these guys, it was way too much what we were hearing earlier. This to me is more in line with what you get for what is ostensibly a rental on KD just because he's so old, right? It's not like you're trading for him in his prime when he's 30 years old. He's 36. You're hoping he has 2 good seasons left in him, and which he probably does. I mean, if we're judging him based on last year. The Phoenix side of this, guys, they get a young scorer in Jalen Green that goes next to Devin Booker. They're going to have to figure out what they're doing with Bradley Beal. My assumption is he's going to be there playing because he likes Phoenix. Dylan Brooks, again, instantly goes into their starting lineup, and now they have 3 guys that they can rely on, whereas last season, how many times can you say that they had 3 players that you could count on night to night?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Especially on
just weird
defense.
to me to think of the rotation next season. Oh my God, yes. Can
Yeah.
you? My thing is, like, think of it like this: Phoenix has now Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal. All of these guys play similarly in a similar position, right? They all play shooting guard. That's the funny part about this. And it's like, how do the Suns? How are they going to be able to fix this? How are they going to be able to make this a
I think he's saying how is the Suns going to make this a competitive team with basically nothing
I think
left on their roster. Although he sounds like the voice of Zordon from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers right now too, so it's hard to tell. I mean, Zena, look, they've got a lot of holes to plug, obviously in their lineup and their rotations, but they had this number 10 pick, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe this is a pick that they can go ahead and just flip for
That's what
another
I'm
good
thinking.
player now, right? Like they drafted pretty well last year. We all like Ryan Dunn and Oso Iguodala. I don't know if this is the sort of team that is going to get the talent that they need at number 10, right? If this was a top 3
Yeah.
pick, you take it. But
Yeah.
a number 10 pick, you probably are looking to move it and see if you can't get another useful rotation piece.
Absolutely. And I think that that's why when you look at the Phoenix Suns and you look at this trade overall, why I still think that Phoenix won too is they get off of KD, they get off of age as well, and they get pieces to play with in the market. And that's what
Yeah.
they needed. They needed to be able to come to conversations with something to offer other than older talent or a Bradley Beal that ultimately, even if he was in a conversation, he could easily say no. So they
Yeah.
now have these things that they can flip, especially that number 10 pick, but also the 5 second rounds. Like that's something. That is something
Right.
that to be able to offer folks. And I think that's, when you look at the Houston side of things and who's still on their bench, like they have second rounders that they could
Yeah.
probably still move to. So I don't think either one of these teams are done, but I do think that they're Houston automatically made themselves in a bigger position, whereas Phoenix, I think that over the next few weeks, even actually really the next like few days before the draft, we're going to see them make some more moves that hopefully put them in a better position.
Yeah.
That being said, I still do think actually, I want to ask you, what are the biggest holes you're seeing in Phoenix's situation in terms of, I know they have a lot of shooting.
Yeah.
They do have a lot of shooting. I do feel like, obviously a big wing is necessary. They don't have that.
I think Dylan Brooks, they're probably going to use him in that role, right? As that
Sure.
wing stopper on defense, kind of like what he's been doing for Houston the last couple of years.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, Dylan Brooks is a good and useful player, but it does seem like once you get to the point where you're trying to be, a conference finalist, that's not the guy that you necessarily want to have out there. I mean, it's what we saw in the playoffs for the Houston Rockets last year. He is a nice, like if he's your 5th starter, that's great. If he's your 3rd best starter, that's a problem. I think that this at
Right.
least is a move in the right direction for Houston, right? Like they upgrade the talent on the court. They have a person that they can go to down the stretch. And then they don't have a guy like Dylan Brooks who's out there eating up shots. I think that's a win-win-win, right? Whereas for Phoenix, they probably need him to get up shots. Like one of the things that they need is a higher volume 3-point wing.
They do.
Right? They need a guy who's willing to take 6 or 7 a game to open the
That's what I'm
driving lanes
thinking.
up for Devin Booker and now for Jalen Green. Whether those guys can survive defensively with Jalen Green out there is another story, right? Like, is Nick Richards enough at the center? What's this team? I mean, they're not even done. Like you said, they got these 5 second round picks, and people maybe don't realize this, but when LeBron left Cleveland, they started their whole rebuild with second round picks. They were jumping in on the Kobe Altman was jumping in on the back of other trades, picking up a second here, a bad contract there. And this is actually one of the few ways in which NBA teams without assets can stack them up, because now you can flip a couple of seconds and maybe get a late first. I mean, you can actually do things like if they're thinking about moving up in a draft, like this draft, for instance. So now they're armed with the number 10. They've got all these seconds. I mean, maybe they can pull something off. I don't see it because I don't think they've got the players on the roster that other teams are going to want if they're giving up a higher pick. Like, let's say Philadelphia, you don't have the level of player to get that pick from Philly unless you're talking about Devin Booker. And I don't think the Suns are going to do that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Rightfully.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm wondering though, for me, I feel like Jalen Green though is on the cusp. Like, I feel like he needs one offseason to really lock in and figure out, how do I become more than just a microwave scorer? Someone that can, put up a lot of shots one game, make a lot of them, and the next game be a dud. He's just been so inconsistent, but it's there. The athletic ability is there. The ability to get to the rack is there. The ability to jump over everyone that's in front of him is there.
Yeah.
This is really predicated too on how well this works out, is really predicated on just like how much Jalen Green gets in the gym this summer, and whether that's alongside Devin Booker on his own, and figures out like, yo, I'm tired of people talking about me not being this superstar, because I am.
Yeah.
I am. And
Now,
I think we all see the remnants. What'd you say?
It's that night in, night out stuff with Jalen Green where it's
Yeah.
missing, right? Like
Just
you
need
said, he'll
consistent.
have a game where he'll put up 35 and you say, wow, this guy might be able to do it. Can he be their guy down the stretch? Now, part of this also for Houston is that they don't have a great offense. They do not have a great system that they lean on. And so when you get a guy like KD, that
That's true.
automatically is going to give them a person to get the ball and get looks off of. But it's not like they're out there running a lot of stuff. You don't get a ton of high ball screens, even, they don't have that sort of setup. And now I think they're even more limited in the ways that they can run their offense because KD is not going to be coming off a bunch of high ball screens.
He's not
You
gonna
know
be
what I mean?
on.
He's not going to be
Right,
running
right.
off the ball.
A lot of
And
off-ball movement.
right, that's
Not a
just not
ton.
going to happen. And
Yeah.
so, it is what it is. But these guys now around him, everyone goes down a notch in the pecking order. So now when you run to the end of a shot clock and Fred VanVleet is launching one of those grenades at the shot clock, it's coming off Kevin Durant. So you've got a little bit more space than what these guys are used to. So hopefully they're not actually grenades that you're getting looks with. You know what I mean? And like last year, this was especially in the playoffs when things tightened up for them, they sort of fell off. And the Phoenix side of this, I just think that this is the first move that they have to make to fill out their roster, obviously. But I like Jalen Green, I think, a lot more than other NBA commenters. I mean, again, that ability to
That's
score.
why I feel like
right.
he's so close. Yeah.
The thing is, it's not just the ability to score. I actually think he's got some more defensive upside. We see stuff from him. He makes plays defensively. He is skinny, though. And so there is a certain amount of, there's a limitation to what those guys can do as far as defensively on the ball. But I still think that when you've got that level of competitiveness that he typically has, I mean, this is a guy you can at least work with. He's not a turnstile defensively. So he can play next to Devin Booker. I'm not really worried about that. The bigger question with Phoenix is, again, Bradley Beal is a question. What do you do there? How do you convince him that he's a piece that should be moved or that he wants to move? And then what do they do? Yeah. And then what else do they do? Right. Like, look at the West.
That's what I'm thinking about. Right.
Houston got better clearly. They got better clearly, although they lost some depth because I do think Dylan Brooks is going to be a piece that they miss at some point during the season. He eats a lot of minutes and he takes a lot of shots. So they will miss him at some point along the way.
I don't know. I feel like the young guys are going to step up. That's the thing about Houston that I like is that the people that you mentioned are going to go down a notch are also still malleable. They are still people that you can mold their game and change the way that they play. I look at Jabari Smith Jr. Yes, he was played at the 4 and the 5 a lot. I feel like he could play the 3 as well, coming off. Like Kevin Durant comes off the court, he comes in at the 3, and they're playing Steven Adams and Şengün at the 4 and 5, which we saw a little bit of last year.
Yeah,
we saw that. And so I just feel like every single one of these players that are young on this team, whether it's Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith Jr., some of these guys are like not clearly a 5 or not clearly, I feel like they all will kind of rotate in the way they change. Now, will you find a Dylan Brooks person on that bench? Like that size is not replicable, right? Like that's not something you could just kind of mold yourself into. But I definitely think people are going to put up more shots if they need it. Like if Ime Udoka is like, yo, let it fly. I feel like that's going to happen. So that part doesn't worry me as much as like, because I feel like everyone can change around them. I'm looking more so like on the Phoenix side of things, what you were mentioning around the wing score. Like that to me is actually the glaring thing. You just lost KD. Who's and yes, Dylan Brooks
is it going to just
shots.
be right? Is it just going to be a two-headed snake of Devin Booker and Jalen Green? My turn, your turn. I mean, the truth is, like, we just don't know. We don't know anything about the new coach as far as like what his style is going to be.
Oh, that's right.
And then we've got a new GM there with no experience. So we'll see, like, what does he do roster construction wise over the next few weeks. I mean, it's amazing that, by the way, that this trade happens the day of Game 7 and not the day after. I am kind of struck by the fact that it happened the morning of Game 7 and they didn't wait until Monday. But that tells me these guys, they've got some stuff they got to get done before the draft on Wednesday.
There's a certain sense of urgency. The fact that this happened, like, also, I don't know if you saw the video of Kevin Durant on stage with Taylor Rooks at Fanatics Fest.
Did not.
He's just sitting in a 2-person fireside chat, pretty much, and everyone in the crowd is like, "Phone,
wait,
check your
while
phone."
he was traded? Like, oh, that's amazing.
While he was traded, while he was on stage.
Man, that's
Everyone's
rough.
like, yeah, like it was
That's rough.
literally, yeah. It made me think of that Ted Lasso video show where I think it's Nate that says like 26,000 people are checking their phones right when they needed they thought they needed to win a game and they actually just needed to
Yeah.
tie. And it was like the sound of the entire arena just going like gasp. And I think that that's what happened at Fanatics Fest.
That's kind of amazing. It reminds me of DeMarcus Cousins being informed of his trade during All-Star weekend while he was being interviewed. So, and by the way, this is a
Crazy.
pretty good point from the YouTube chat. By the way, we're live on YouTube for if you're just listening to this emergency pod. We go live from Chisholm, who's in the chat. Ime wanted him.
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
Kevin Durant, and I do think that there's something to that. They tried to get together in
Absolutely.
Brooklyn previously. Clearly, like there's some kind of relationship there, and I think that from a just mentality standpoint, Kevin Durant fits what Ime Udoka has tried to train his guys to become. Beat your man offensively. Can you beat your man? If you can do that, you can get up as many shots as you want. I think that's going to be great for KD there. The guy rolls out of bed and scores 25 points a game. That's the thing.
Period.
And so
Literally.
when you can get a guy like that and he can do it at the highest level, meaning like in the NBA finals, he can do it.
Mm-hmm,
so I think, and this is also a team that, as S laid out, I thought very clearly, still has so many other pieces it can move. Only had to give up this year's Suns pick. Still has Reed Shepherd, who we don't even know, honestly, NBA guy,
Cam Whitmore, Aaron Holiday, Jock Landale. Right. Like these are, again,
they've got pieces
a lot
that they
of,
can move.
There's some first round picks in there. There's some second round picks in there on the bench. They're shooting on the bench, like their size on the bench. They have a lot if they wanted to. But the question is like, what would you move for at this point?
I mean, that's the question, right? Now I'm of the opinion that Alperen Sengun is going to create a ceiling for this team, similar to what Domantas Sabonis does for the Kings. If your center is at this level, you sort of how good your defense could be, and I don't know that that's good enough. His offense also, while it's good, it's not. He's not Nikola Jokic. And so for me, I mean, that's the guy I would be trying to maybe offload, especially now that you got KD and you have all these other guys. They still have the ability to make a consolidation trade, but I kind of hope they don't. Kevin Durant. Let's talk about the negatives here with Kevin Durant.
Okay,
he is 36 years old. He has become injury prone. Like the last few seasons, he has been in and out of the lineup. A lot of it's acute injuries. That ankle roll during warmups. Like stuff happens, but he's also older and his body's broken down a little bit. So I just think there are going to be some things that come kind of with the package of KD. How is it going to affect the locker room? This was a team that seemed to be pretty tight knit, and obviously, like we talked about, their just mentality often going into games. Like KD's a little bit more laid back than these guys. So, like, how is that stuff going to work? I think it's going to be fine because it's Kevin Durant, and so you make it work. But if we're judging,
can I give you some answers that I think on these questions?
Well, I was going to say, but if we're looking at just what has happened in his recent history, it has not been great adding Kevin Durant to your team.
This is his 5th team. This is going to be his 8th coach in that time. So, just putting out the facts. I agree with you. I mean, I agree with you with all these questions to ask. The question of the body, that is what it is, right? That we know that part. There's nothing we can do. We can't reverse age. But the question of the locker room is a really great one because that was one of the things that we asked about Phoenix. This is Kevin Durant's team. What's your identity? We don't know we didn't know who Phoenix was at their core of what did they, what was their calling card? And Kevin Durant was at the top of that team. And it's like, what does he bring here? But what I love is what you actually just laid out is that there is now this through line from the head coach to the guy on the team.
Right.
In terms of the mentality of how you need to go out there, how you need to play, the trash talk and the grittiness that Ime operates with, Kevin Durant operates with that too. It's just kind of like a no BS situation. We're out here playing ball. This is what I care about. That's it. And that now is going to permeate, I would imagine, throughout this team as these young guys are playing with their venerated, player that they
Right.
looked up to their entire career. I can't imagine Jabari Smith Jr. didn't have KD highlights on repeat on his YouTube, right? Check his YouTube history. I'm sure he was watching that. I'm sure all of them were at some point. So you've got that aspect in terms of the mentality and the locker room and things like that. I also think that that Alperen Sengun comment is interesting. I didn't think about it. Like, in my opinion, I do think that Alperen Sengun can still get better.
Oh yeah.
The defense, though, you're right. I didn't think about, like, there was some questionable defense in terms of protecting the rim, and we know that. And so now I'm looking at, like, even if you move Alperen to the 4, bring Steven Adams to the 5, that's still a limitation. Like, yes, you'll have a little bit more defense, you'll have a little bit more in position, but then who comes off behind him?
I don't think that they'll start that double big. I mean, we will see it some. I mean, it was so successful in the playoffs, and obviously they extended Steven Adams. I mean, he's going to be there next season. I think that they probably have some moves to make. As someone in the chat mentioned, they are going to have to do an extension for KD here. Curious what that number is going to look like and how much that may limit them. We had heard reports that he was willing to take a discount with the right team. Maybe Houston's the right team and it gives them a little bit more cap flexibility. We'll find that out. Everyone's eyeballing that Jimmy Butler number, and I think that a lot of people are wondering, hey, is KD going to be somewhere north of that? And I think that that's a pretty good question. Anyway, as we wrap up, I mean, we got Game 7 tonight, but let's close the door, or at least let's open the door on this KD trade, because we're going to be talking about it probably all summer. Grade it from both sides. What do you give Houston? What do you give Phoenix? It's not, I mean, this is Kevin Durant at 36, so we can make that caveat, but he's still, if you look at how he played last year, this is still a guy who looks like a top 10 player.
Yeah. I'm giving Houston an A. I feel like that's a big grade. Not an A plus, maybe, I think I'm giving them an A. Again, the importance in this league of not giving up, as S mentioned beautifully at the very beginning of this pod, flexibility. Yep. You don't give away your flexibility. And that means you are flexible in that you can either keep making moves because you still have that young depth on your bench, or you don't give away your flexibility in real time in the season next year because you have a depth, you have bench play, right? And so there's different ways that you can attack that. I definitely give Houston an A in that regard. And you also fix the problem that was glaring last year.
Yeah.
Directly, immediately. I love that. Phoenix, I feel like Phoenix passed the quiz and the test is still here, right? Like, I feel like we can't quite grade. Like, okay, you did great on the midterm. The finals still hasn't happened yet. Because I got to see how these picks.
We're gonna have to judge Phoenix in like August. Like, what have they done? Because this team is gonna, I think, be pretty different. I mean, not just losing KD, but I think that they've got to add some serious bodies. But I think in this trade, they could have done worse. I think getting Dylan Brooks is actually good for them. And it's funny to say, but he is a good and useful player in the NBA. And I think that they got another good and useful player. Jalen Green, like we like him a lot. I don't know if he turns into the player that we kind of want him to, but I think at least you get a chance there. But I'm with you. I think Houston, this is an A. You needed a guy. You went out and got one. And you did it this year. You didn't wait until next summer. You didn't wait until the deadline. Like, you went ahead and got it done. So now they've got time to still work and potentially even make this team even better. All right. Well, that's going to do it for the show. Thank you guys that turned up on the live stream. I mean, we just turned this thing on and we had a lot of you here. This is awesome. Yeah. So really appreciate you if you caught the live stream. If you're listening, we appreciate you, of course, as always. For S. Baraheni and Zena Keita, I'm Dave Dufour, and this has been the Kevin Durant Emergency Podcast. Again,